Imagine a single human warship, barely able to hold its course against the weight of an entire galaxy's combined military forces. How did one destroyer withstand the unrelenting might of the greatest galactic powers? Let's start with what happened the day the galaxy learned to fear humanity. The silence of deep space was shattered by proximity alarms screaming through the corridors of the UES Defiant. Captain Steele's weathered face remained impassive as he studied the tactical display, but his knuckles whitened around the command rail. What they were seeing shouldn't have been possible, thousands upon thousands of alien vessels materializing from hyperspace like a plague of locusts descending upon the void. "Sir," his tactical officer's voice cracked with barely suppressed terror, "I'm reading. God Almighty, I'm reading over 4,000 enemy contacts. Kytherian dreadnoughts, Zephyrian battle cruisers, Nexus carrier groups, Vorthan destroyers. It's the entire Galactic Defense Alliance." The bridge crew exchanged glances that spoke volumes. Every officer present understood the mathematics of their situation with crystal clarity. The Defiant was humanity's most advanced destroyer, bristling with cutting-edge technology and crewed by the finest minds Earth could produce. But against an armada that represented the combined might of civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, she was nothing more than a gnat facing a hurricane. "Communications," Steele commanded, his voice carrying the steel that had earned him his surname. "What are they transmitting?" Officer Chen's fingers danced across her console, her face growing pale as she decoded the alien communications. "Sir, they're not broadcasting surrender demands or ultimatums. I'm picking up fleet coordination signals. Targeting solutions for the Kepler colonies." The weight of 60 million human lives settled on Steele's shoulders like a crushing gravitational field. Those colonies, farmers and scientists, teachers and children who had never seen Earth's blue skies, would be nothing but radioactive ash if this fleet reached them. The Defiant, patrolling the outer reaches of human space on what should have been a routine mission, was the only thing standing between the galaxy's most powerful alliance and the extinction of humanity's expansion into the stars. "All hands, battle stations," Steele announced over the ship's intercom, his voice echoing through every corridor and compartment. "This is not a drill. We stand between them and our people. If they want to reach the colonies, they'll have to go through us first." As the alien fleet began to move with the inexorable precision of a closing trap, Admiral Vex'thari aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The humans had been a persistent irritation for too long, their rapid expansion and unconventional thinking disrupting the careful balance of power that had maintained galactic stability for centuries. Today, that irritation would be permanently removed. But as the first wave of Kytherian heavy cruisers accelerated toward the lone human destroyer, something unexpected happened. The Defiant simply vanished. How did an underpowered ship manage to hold its ground? As the first wave of enemy ships closed in, Captain Steele knew this might be the last stand for humanity, but it would not be without a fight. Where did it go? Admiral Vex'thari snarled from his command throne, his 4 arms gesturing frantically at the tactical display. "Ships don't just disappear from sensors." But Lieutenant Commander Sarah Martinez, the Defiant's brilliant chief engineer, had spent the past 72 hours implementing modifications that no alien mind had ever conceived. While the enemy fleet searched for conventional cloaking signatures, the Defiant danced between their sensor sweeps using a combination of micro-jumps, gravitational slings around debris fields, and the ancient human art of simply running silent and cold. The first indication of the Defiant's presence came when the Kytherian cruiser Inevitable Victory suffered a catastrophic failure of its primary sensor array. Then another ship lost communications. Then a third found its weapons targeting systems mysteriously offline. The human destroyer wasn't trying to destroy these massive vessels, instead, it was systematically blinding and deafening them with surgical precision strikes that exploited weaknesses the aliens hadn't even known existed. "Impossible," breathed Admiral Vex'thari as reports flooded in from across his fleet. "Their weapons shouldn't be able to penetrate our shields at all." But Captain Steele wasn't trying to penetrate shields, he was thinking like a human. Every alien ship was a masterpiece of engineering, with redundancies and backups for every conceivable system failure. Every conceivable failure, that is, except for enemies who refuse to fight by the established rules of galactic warfare. Status report, Steele demanded as the Defiant slipped through the alien formation like a shark through a school of confused fish. 17 sensor arrays destroyed, 12 communication nodes offline, and we've seeded their tactical network with false position data, reported Martinez with grim satisfaction. They're starting to shoot at their own shadows. The precise clockwork of the galactic military machine began to stutter and falter. Ships designed for overwhelming frontal assault found themselves stumbling through a maze of false signals and phantom contacts. The Zephyrian battle group opened fire on what they believed was the human destroyer, only to watch their energy beams slice through a Kytherian formation. The Nexus carriers launched fighter squadrons that promptly attacked their own escorts, guided by corrupted targeting data that the Defiant's AI had seamlessly inserted into their command networks. As the hours stretched into an entire day, Admiral Vex'thari stared at casualty reports that defied everything he had learned in 3 centuries of military service. They expected quick defeat, but as the hours turned into days, the enemy fleet began to question something they had never even imagined: can humans truly be this resourceful? Admiral, his aide whispered nervously, the Nexus contingent is requesting permission to withdraw. They claim their ships are experiencing widespread system failures. System failures. The most advanced fleet in galactic history was being systematically dismantled by what amounted to technological sabotage. But it wasn't their technology that was failing, it was their assumptions about how warfare should be conducted. On the Defiant's bridge, the crew worked with desperate efficiency that would have impressed any observer. They were fighting for something the aliens couldn't truly understand: the right to exist in a galaxy that had never asked for their permission. Chief Martinez had turned the enemy's own sophisticated communication systems against them, spreading disinformation like a virus through their fleet. Every targeting solution became suspect. Every sensor reading could be fabricated. The aliens found themselves paralyzed by doubt in their own instruments. Captain. Tactical Officer Reynolds called out with barely contained excitement. The Vorthan destroyer wing just opened fire on the Kytherian flank. Their targeting computers think we're hiding behind enemy vessels. The galaxy's greatest alliance was literally shooting itself to pieces, and the single human destroyer continued its deadly dance through the chaos. But as the Defiant exploited the confusion to maximum effect, a new and terrible threat emerged on the tactical display. The Eternal Dominion had finally adapted to their hit-and-run tactics. Admiral Vex'thari's flagship was moving to intercept, and its primary weapons could vaporize the Defiant with a single concentrated barrage. "Sir," Chen reported with growing dread, "massive energy buildup on the enemy flagship. They're charging their planet-killer cannon." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Everyone present understood what that meant. The games were over. The clever tactics and guerrilla warfare had bought them time, but raw, overwhelming power was about to settle what cunning had only prolonged. Captain Steele's hand moved to a sealed console he had hoped never to touch, a panel that only he and 2 other people aboard the ship even knew existed. In a shocking move that no one saw coming, Captain Steele made a decision that would change the fate of the entire galaxy. He gave the signal to use the one weapon nobody knew existed on board. Authorization code Omega-77 Alpha, Steele spoke clearly into the console's pickup. Project Gravitas is authorized for immediate deployment. Martinez's eyes widened in shock. She had helped design the weapon's power systems, but even she hadn't known it was actually installed aboard the Defiant. "Captain," she whispered, "once we activate this, there's no going back. The energy signature alone will reveal everything about our gravitational research to the entire galaxy." "Better they know we have teeth than think we're helpless prey," Steele replied grimly. Deep in the Defiant's core, exotic matter chambers that had been disguised as standard power couplings began to hum with barely contained forces that could bend spacetime itself. The authorization codes were verified, the safeties were disengaged, and humanity's greatest secret began to charge toward full activation. The gravity manipulation cannon, a weapon so classified that its very existence was known only to a handful of individuals in the highest levels of Earth's government, prepared to reveal itself in the most dramatic way possible. Admiral Vex'thari watched his primary cannon reach full charge with grim satisfaction. Enough energy to crack a planet's crust was concentrated in the flagship's main weapon, and this time there would be no clever evasion or technological trickery to save the human vessel. Target locked on the enemy destroyer, his weapons officer reported. Firing solution confirmed. End this farce, Vex'thari commanded. Fire. The Eternal Dominion's planet-killer cannon discharged just as reality twisted around the human destroyer. With the fate of not just the Defiant, but every human colony on the line, the battle reaches a point of no return. The galaxy's might versus a single destroyer, could this actually work? The gravity manipulation cannon didn't fire a projectile or energy beam, it fired distorted space itself. A bubble of altered gravitational fields expanded from the Defiant like ripples in a cosmic pond, and everything the distortion touched experienced physics in ways that defied conventional understanding. The flagship's devastating energy beam, meant to vaporize the human destroyer, bent like light around a black hole. The shot curved back on itself in an impossible arc, missing the Defiant entirely and carving through 3 of Vex'thari's own heavy cruisers before dissipating harmlessly into the void. What did they do? Admiral Vex'thari whispered in horror as he watched his carefully ordered formation dissolve into chaos. Artificial gravity wells yanked ships from their planned courses. Vessels designed to operate in the predictable environment of normal space found themselves helpless in a region where the fundamental forces of the universe had been rewritten by human ingenuity. The Defiant, equipped with experimental inertial dampeners designed specifically for gravitational anomalies, moved through the chaos like a dancer through a hurricane. Its weapons found target after target as enemy ships struggled against forces they couldn't understand, counter, or even properly detect. All weapons, full salvo. Steele commanded, and the Defiant's entire arsenal spoke as one. Rail gun rounds rode gravity waves like surfers on cosmic tsunamis, their trajectories guided by the distorted space around them to strike vulnerable points on enemy hulls. Missile salvos curved through impossible angles, their warheads finding gaps in shields that conventional physics said shouldn't exist. The galaxy's most advanced fleet, trapped in gravitational eddies like insects in amber, could only watch helplessly as a single human destroyer systematically dismantled their formation. But the weapon was as dangerous to its wielders as to its targets. Warning alarms screamed across the Defiant's bridge as the ship's hull groaned under gravitational stresses it had never been designed to handle. "Captain!" Martinez shouted over the rising cacophony, hull integrity at 58% and falling. "The gravitational shears are tearing us apart from the inside." Steele's knuckles went white as he gripped his command chair, feeling the ship shudder around him like a living thing in pain. They had minutes, perhaps less, before their own weapon destroyed them. But around them, the greatest fleet in galactic history was coming apart at the quantum level. The Eternal Dominion, caught in the eye of the gravitational storm, watched helplessly as its escort vessels were crushed, scattered, or sent spinning into uncontrolled trajectories that would carry them far from the battlefield. Admiral Vex'thari's own ship groaned as its artificial gravity systems fought against the human weapon, creating pockets of zero gravity and crushing acceleration that left his crew helpless and disoriented. "Emergency jump to hyperspace," the Admiral commanded desperately, but even that escape was denied them. The gravitational distortions made jump calculations impossible, any ship attempting to enter hyperspace would be torn apart by competing forces. The Defiant's final barrage carved through space on waves of twisted gravity, each shot guided by forces that shouldn't exist according to everything the galaxy thought it knew about physics. The Eternal Dominion's shields, designed to stop the most powerful conventional weapons ever conceived, were useless against attacks that came from angles that violated three-dimensional space itself. The enemy flagship's bridge exploded in a cascade of atmosphere and debris, taking Admiral Vex'thari and his entire command staff with it. Secondary explosions rippled through the massive vessel as gravitational tides tore through its internal structure, reducing the pride of the galactic fleet to a drifting hulk in a matter of seconds. "Emergency shutdown," Steele ordered, his voice barely audible over the screaming of tortured metal. "Purge the exotic matter chambers now." Martinez's hands flew over her controls, bleeding away the dangerous forces that powered their weapon as quickly as she dared. The gravitational fields collapsed like a house of cards, space snapped back to its normal configuration, and blessed silence fell over the bridge. Around them, what remained of the galaxy's greatest fleet hung motionless in space, damaged, scattered, and utterly demoralized. When the dust settled, one question remained: how had a single ship, with a fraction of the enemy's might, managed to hold off an entire galaxy? The answer wasn't just in the weapons or the tactics, it was in the spirit of the crew, the refusal to back down. In the aftermath of the battle, as rescue ships arrived from both sides to collect survivors, the galaxy struggled to comprehend what it had witnessed. The Defiant limped back toward human space, its hull scarred by gravitational forces and enemy fire, but intact. More importantly, the ship carried with it proof that humanity was not the minor irritation the galactic powers had assumed. News of the victory spread through human space like wildfire, carried by hyperspace communications that reached every colony within days. But it was the alien reaction that truly changed the course of galactic history. Within a week, ambassadors from every major power requested urgent audiences with Earth's government. The same species that had dismissed humanity as primitive upstarts now spoke reverently of mutual respect and technological cooperation. The weapon that had saved the Kepler colonies had also earned humanity a permanent seat at the galactic table. Captain Steele found himself promoted to admiral and tasked with overseeing humanity's first interstellar defense fleet. The Defiant was retired to a place of honor, its battle-scarred hull preserved as a monument to the day one ship had stood against impossible odds and emerged victorious. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed conflict itself. The established rules of warfare, unchanged for millennia, had been shattered by human creativity and determination. Military academies across 1,000 worlds began studying the Battle of the Kepler Passage, trying to understand how conventional thinking had been so thoroughly defeated by unconventional tactics. The age of human expansion had begun in earnest, built on the foundation of one ship's refusal to surrender. The stars, once the exclusive domain of ancient civilizations, now belonged to a species that had proven something fundamental about the nature of conflict. Sometimes, the smallest force can move the largest obstacle, if it knows exactly where to push. In the end, the galaxy had learned to fear not humanity's weapons or their technology, but something far more dangerous, their absolute refusal to accept defeat. The Defiant had lived up to its name, and in doing so, had defined what it meant to be human in a universe that finally understood the true meaning of determination. The void between stars, once hostile and forbidding, now welcomed human ships as equals among the greatest powers in the galaxy. And somewhere in the depths of space, the wreckage of the Eternal Dominion served as a permanent reminder of the day the galaxy learned to fear humanity, not because of what they were, but because of what they refused to become, another conquered species in someone else's empire.